All right, here we are. Last one, lesson 5, disorders of the blood. So we're going to start with sickle cell anemia. So sickle cell anemia is an inherited chronic blood disease. If you're diagnosed with it, you have it forever. It's part of your genetic makeup. And what happens is your red blood cells, instead of being that biconcave, round red cell, they are sickle shaped or crescent shaped. So they call it sickle cell anemia. And the problem with this is they only carry a certain amount of oxygen. They don't carry a lot of oxygen and they break easily. So it can cause a lot of blockage in your body, because if you have all of these cells and they break apart, it can cause a clot and cause vaso-occlusion. Now, this is most common in African Americans. This is specifically one of the diseases I saw the most in terms of blood diseases at the hospital in African Americans. But when they have a sickle cell crisis, it's an acute attack and it's sudden, and they have bone pain and there's pain in their joints. They can have occlusion, so they can lose circulation to certain parts of their body. And so what they do is they give hydroxyurea, and that is helpful for the pain. They also gave all kinds of other medications too. But what they do is really, in order to treat it, they have to do bone marrow transplants. And often they'll do transfusions to get through the crisis. So that hydroxyurea is how they treat them for the pain and getting their blood flowing again. Thalassemia. So thalassemia is another inherited disease, and it is actually found in a lot of Mediterranean families. I have thalassemia in my family. I have 2 or 3 brothers and sisters that I know of who have been diagnosed with thalassemia. I do not have thalassemia, but it is inherited, and it's when your body doesn't make enough hemoglobin. If you don't have enough hemoglobin, then you don't have enough oxygen. It can make you very tired. The body's red blood cells don't function properly, and the red blood cells last a shorter period of time. Remember, red blood cells are supposed to last 120 days. In people with thalassemia, they don't have that. My sister has thalassemia, and she's always running anemic, and she has a pretty normal stamina. She used to be an athlete, but you can have thalassemia that's devastating. So Cooley's anemia is a more severe version, and that is when you have defective production of hemoglobin. It's very hard to treat this because the red blood cells, there's no way to eliminate the iron in your body, and if you get a blood transfusion, it could be an iron overload and damage organs. So they can use iron chelators to rid the body of iron, but a lot of times they'll refer to this as thalassemia major and not Cooley's anemia, and it can be fatal. Hereditary spherocytosis. Now, this is actually one I had never heard about, but it is an inherited disease because of a genetic mutation, and it makes the cells a sphere instead of biconcave. So remember how they smush down in the middle? Okay, they don't in this. They stay like the shape of a sphere, and it makes them very fragile. So what happens is they break. They can't carry the oxygen. It causes anemia, jaundice, enlarged spleen, and there's really they treat it with folic acid, and they do a splenectomy because you don't want that spleen to be enlarged, and they'll often do blood transfusions. Hereditary hemochromatosis. So this is another one that's kind of interesting. My husband has hereditary hemochromatosis. His father had it. Several of his brothers and sisters have it. I think I shared this with you guys in class that my father-in-law didn't know he had it. And of course, he couldn't get rid of all of the iron in his body. And when they went to do a biopsy, the needle bounced off his liver. So what happens is your body absorbs too much iron and it's stored in your liver, your pancreas, and your heart. And this leads to liver, heart, and pancreas disease. It can be fatal if it goes forever untreated. They know nowadays. So like when my husband was diagnosed, we just had to change the way we eat. He doesn't eat a lot of red meat. We increased our white meat and fish intake. I had to get rid of all of my iron pans because, believe it or not, iron comes off those iron pans into your food, which is normally no big deal, but for him it was. And also, we had a grill with iron grates. We had to get ceramic grates. There are certain foods that he can't eat. He doesn't drink a lot of orange juice, a lot of iron up, believe it or not. At least, I mean, that's what he told me. He's not allowed to eat orange juice. He's not allowed to eat enriched pasta, enriched cereals. In the United States, everything is enriched. So it basically cut out all of that. So I had to find alternatives. European pasta has much less iron in it. So he can eat that every now and then. But it just changed the way he could eat. He had signs and symptoms can include darkening of the skin, arrhythmia, diabetes, fatigue, and joint pain, right? Because if it's affecting the pancreas, you're going to develop diabetes. If it's affecting your heart, you can get an arrhythmia. What they do is phlebotomy. In that phlebotomy, they just withdraw blood. So, for instance, 2 days ago, he went to the Red Cross and had a unit of blood drawn. And he does all of these things, and his blood levels have been normal. The other thing that we can talk about that's inherited is hemophilia. So hemophilia is an inherited disease, and you're missing blood clotting factor. So the whole coagulation process that we talked about. Well, when you have hemophilia, you're missing blood clotting factor, so your blood does not clot. It's mostly in males because it is sex linked, and men have XY. And they treat it depending on the severity. So if you only have a mild case of hemophilia, they can inject the hormone desmopressin to stimulate the release of clotting factor. But you still have to, as a hemophiliac, no matter what level it is, you have to avoid trauma and report any bleeding, no matter how slight. So famous hemophiliacs. So Queen Victoria carried the gene and basically mothered the entire European royalty. And so a lot of them had hemophilia. Tsar Nicholas, who was the Tsar that the Bolsheviks murdered in 1917 or 18, he had a son who was supposed to inherit the crown, but instead he was murdered too. His name was Tsarevich Alexei Nikolaevich. His mother was, I believe it was his mother that was related to Queen Victoria. So he had that gene, because men only have a Y and an X. So whatever's on that X is going to show up on their body. Iron deficiency anemia. So anemia is basically a deficient number or percentage of red blood cells. Okay. So there's different types. Okay. Anemia can result in, a bleed, you're ill. But anyway, what happens is you don't have enough blood cells carrying enough oxygen. So you become anemic. Iron deficiency anemia is often found in women, children, and adolescents because they don't have enough iron in their diet. And they become deficient in hemoglobin. You have to have iron for hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is what carries the oxygen. So iron supplements, green leafy vegetables, eating enriched pastas, things like that helps with it. Pernicious anemia is something different. That's usually found in older people, and that is because they have a deficiency of vitamin B. or they lack intrinsic factors. So vitamin B is absorbed in the small intestines, and a lot of elderly people, their intestines don't work the way they used to because they're old, and it doesn't absorb enough vitamin B. If you don't absorb enough vitamin B, you're not going to be able to make enough hemoglobin, and that is going to cause pernicious anemia. It can be associated with autoimmune diseases as well. If you are somebody who has Crohn's disease, this may be a huge problem because your intestines are damaged. So what they do is they try to supplement B12 and folic acid so that the body can at least get some. But when people have pernicious anemia, they usually have difficulty breathing. They're pale. Their pallor is poor. They're tired. They can have neurologic changes. They're cloudy. Their mind is cloudy. They can't move very well because they're not getting what they need. Their nerve cells are not getting what they need. So a lot of times they'll give people B12 injections. Okay. I know it's a little bit over, but oh well. And we're going to go to the next page, and I'll see you in the next video.